Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Angiosperm Morphology course. And finally, to wrap things up and finish this chapter on root, let's discuss two final, so to say, topics. And as I said at the end of the last video, that was by mistake, that in the next chapter, in fact, that was supposed to be next video. So this is our final video, and the things to be discussed related to roots. One of them is the functions of the roots. Normally a question is given that describe functions of the root. And secondly, modification. As we go along, this is what we are going to study in all the chapters, especially leaf and stem, their functions, and especially in the stem, and then the modification of the stem and the modification of the leaf. So functions first, and as we know, the most obvious two functions of the roots, and you're absolutely right. Anchorage, the roots anchor the plants in the soil, and in doing so they provide support. A huge tree that is staying erect above the surface of the soil is being supported by the vast network of roots below the surface of the soil. Second, absorption. These are the two most obvious basic functions of the roots. Absorption of water plus minerals. So these are the two basic functions: support, anchorage, and absorption. But if the root gets modified, then it performs functions other than these two basic functions. These are the two most obvious regular functions of the normal roots, like taproot, for example, that is anchorage and absorption. And there is also a third function which is less obvious, and that is storage. Now this function is performed, so to say, in two ways. One is a normal function of the roots, a plant, a tree, a shrub, or a herb, whatever the case might be. The synthesized food, a part of it is stored in the roots for later use. So roots also store food regularly in almost all plants. However, sometimes it becomes a specialty, as we have seen in a large number of roots, both in taproot as well as adventitious roots, which become thick and fleshy, and that is due to the storage of food. So storage can be treated in two ways: a normal or regular function, and also a special function. As far as this regular function or normal function is concerned, the root remains normal. It performs its regular functions, these two basic functions, the support and absorption of water and minerals, but it also functions as a storage organ if there is no other storage organ in the plant. So this is a regular function. But when it becomes specially modified, it becomes thick and fleshy, then it becomes a special function, and that is when it is thick and fleshy. So what it does, that it stores up food. So the third function of the root, whether a regular function or a special function, is storage. In case of adventitious roots, we have seen that roots also act as a climbing organ. They help the weak stems climb up a support, be it a tree, a plant, or a wall, a stone, whatever it might be. So roots also act as climbing organ, and they help the plant climb up the support. So this was their function number 4. As far as the support is concerned, we have seen in adventitious, the partly subterranean adventitious roots, and that is formation of props in the genus Ficus or Ficus bengalensis, Ficus elastica, religiosa. The adventitious roots, they form props and they provide support to the heavy aerial branches which somewhat extend horizontally, and they provide support to those branches by forming props. Then in case of, this is the fifth function, the roots also act as a haustorial organ. So they form haustoria or absorbing roots, parasitic roots. So they are parasitic roots. So roots can also act as haustoria, and in this circumstances what they do, that they absorb nourishment from their hosts. So the plant is a parasite, it sends out haustoria or parasitic roots, and these roots absorb nourishment, water and food from the host plant. In some roots, such as sweet potato and other roots, tuberous roots, tap roots like conical taproot or napiform or fusiform, they act as organ for vegetative propagation. So to propagate a plant vegetatively, these roots act as vegetative propagating organ. So vegetative propagation, sweet potato and other tuberous taproots. And also certain roots of certain plants like Dalbergia. These roots, when injured, they produce buds, and those buds develop into new plant. So they can also act as organs for vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation. Dalbergia is one example. Other is raspberry and poplar. So all these plants, they develop buds when their roots are injured, and those buds produce new plants or plantlets which can be grown as individual plant. So these were the functions of the roots, regular functions, which are anchorage, support, regular support and absorption, and also main roots or the tap roots, they act as a storage organ in normal conditions, and when they become thick and fleshy, so it becomes their special function, and when they become thick and fleshy, they store up food and they act as a storage organ. Next is the climbing. Roots can help the weak plants, weak stem to climb up, so they act as a climbing organ. They also provide support in the form of props, like in genus Ficus, and in Cuscuta they are parasitic. There are parasitic roots, or they act as parasitic roots, and in sweet potato and other tuberous roots like radish and turnip, they act as an organ for vegetative propagation, vegetative reproduction. And also in Dalbergia, raspberry, poplar and many other plants, the roots, when injured, they produce buds. So these were the functions, normal and special functions of the roots. The first two were the regular functions, and the next four were special functions. Storage is somewhat regular and special function. You can include it in both the categories. And then modification. There's nothing much in it as far as the modification of root is concerned, except that it becomes, one of the modification is that the root swells up, it becomes thick and fleshy, or it becomes a tuber like. So we have seen various different kinds of fleshy roots in adventitious roots, and also in tap roots, the three major forms, the conical, napiform and fusiform. So one of the modification is that root becomes tuberous or thick and fleshy. There is nothing much as far as the modifications of the roots are concerned, except this one, the tuberous, that they become thick and fleshy, and then they assume various shapes which have been discussed already in the previous videos. Other than that, we can say that there are no special modifications of the roots And when we say modification, that is the shape of the root changes and it assumes something new which is unlike a typical root. So the only category which is unlike a typical root, these are the tuberous roots or the root tubers. Other than that, there is no special category as far as the modification goes. So this concludes our chapter on root, kinds of roots, and finally their functions and modification. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.